Apple slashes orders for parts for the iPhone, and look what happened to the stock. Down close to 4%. Should you buy it or should you sell it? We'll discuss that and more right here, right now on Digits. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Simon Constable. And to help us answer that question, we've got Cody Willard, and he joins us now from Alto, New Mexico. Cody, thanks for joining us. You're a long-time follower of Apple stock, and you've been writing a bit about this. This sounds like terrible news for Apple. They're slashing the parts buying for the iPhone. Is it as bad as it sounds?
It's not. It's certainly not good news. You know, these reports have been trickling out for a week that iPhone component orders from Apple have been trimmed back and/or cut back, however you want to call it. Look, you know, Apple is one of those. People love it at 700. They hate it at 500. As you know, you've been reading my stuff. I'll trim on some of that euphoria. I was a seller. Not of all of my Apple. I've owned it for years, and I plan to continue owning it. But yeah, I trim it down at high, and I'm actually out there buying some today. I bought some common stock, and I've been bidding on some calls even.
Now, calls are options. Let's stick with the common stock. Can this stock go down a bit more? I mean, is this sort of, are we looking at a saturated market and more bad news will begin to leak out and people will just want to dump the stock?
You know, at some point, the valuation of this thing has got to come back into play. But certainly, you know, it's trading right now. If you X out the $125 billion net cash they have on the balance sheet, it's, you know, at 6 or 7 times earnings. If you actually go, with the just leaving a pure PE, you're still at 10 times earnings. And it's, you know, it could go down to 7 times, 8 times earnings on that 10 number. And the stock could be down another 20, 30, 50 bucks even. And yeah, it could certainly happen. But this sort of reminds me of when I was buying it for the first time back in 2003. The stock was getting killed because they were launching a new music platform, maybe going to buy Warner Music Group. And, you know, the stock had fallen from 12 to 7 bucks. And I stepped in and started buying it, and I've been a shareholder since.
Now, I know you like this as a long-term play. We've also talked about how hard it can be when a stock is very unfashionable to get in and buy it, and that's something that I know you wrestle with. How do you get over that if you're an investor, not an experienced investor like you are?
You know, I trademarked the term flip it a long time ago, which is the concept of trying to flip anything you're reading in the newspapers and anything you're feeling inside on top of itself, because usually the mainstream media and the mainstream hype, whatever's being in the headlines, is already priced into the market. So you need to either look past it or do exactly opposite. And the same holds true internally. You know, right now, I'm sick to my stomach trying to buy Apple. It's not fun stepping in there and buying. And don't get me wrong, I've been scaling in previously. I've got some call options that I bought a couple months ago that I've lost my shirt on. And, you know, by far my biggest position is Apple common stock, which, again, I've owned for years. And I plan to hold on up into $1,000 a share, which has been my price target for 2 or 3 years.
Okay, well, obviously you've done very well on this returns. Now, what would make you change your mind about Apple stock? Is there anything in the company's strategy where you would say to yourself, oh, Tim Cook's doing X, Y, Z now I don't want to own it? What would that be? What scenario would that be?
Well, I would expect I'm going to have to exit Apple at some point, you know, again, at maybe $1,000 a share in 2 or 3 years. I don't think that, you know, the setup, their ecosystem, their earnings power, they're all set up so nicely right here, right now. And I do, you know, you hear about margins coming down perhaps, and they might, but there's still going to be earnings growth and cash flow growth. And, you know, one of my favorite trades right now that I'm writing about in my newsletter, which, by the way, Revolution Investing, published by our parent Dow Jones Market Watch. I'm talking about shorting Samsung and buying Apple as a pair trade, shorting IBM and buying Google as a pair trade.
Wow. That's very sophisticated investing. We thank you very much for the input on this. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Cody Willard.
Great to be here. Thanks, Simon.
So that's Cody Willard. You can read more on Cody on marketwatch.com.